Women who have dealt with sexual abuse, how long did it take you to be comfortable being intimate again? I thought the abuse was normal, since that was all of my experiences for a while. It wasn't until I was in a relationship that didn't happen that I realized that being manipulated and forced into sex wasn't the best I could hope for. I used to think that was all I could get, or that was just what men did when they wanted to have sex. The act of getting into bed naked with someone isn't the hardest thing for me. It isn't exactly easy either. Trusting someone to not harm me, manipulate me, or cross my boundaries is difficult. Emotional intimacy was, and still is, the hardest thing for me. I'm working on it, but haven't had a lot of experiences where I feel safe with being vulnerable. I still struggle with not feeling like all men want to do is hurt me and other women. Logically I know that's the case, but unfortunately I haven't had a lot of experiences otherwise. I'm getting better at allowing myself to be vulnerable when I know I'm safe to be. So basically after almost 5 years since the last abusive experience, I'm still working on it and might still be for a while. I'm more comfortable than I was, but I'm still not completely comfortable. But then again, 2020 was the first year I wasn't raped since 2014, so I guess time will tell. I think it's often assumed that the way trauma manifests in sexual abuse survivors is never wanting to have sex as a result. Hypersexuality is also a common consequence. In my case, it's actually the opposite of being able to be intimate, in that I have a hard time saying no, and I make myself do it. I say make, because no one forces me, but sometimes it can feel like a conditioned response. It's hard to explain, but it's like I'm on autopilot and my autopilot is programmed to have sex, and look like I'm enjoying it. It has definitely gotten better through therapy and I feel more in control. For me it wasn't so much that I was uncomfortable with intimacy. It was more that it felt like a performance, and I was detached. My boyfriend is really understanding, and between me working on being present and speaking up and him learning to pick up on when I'm dissociating, it has gotten better. I'm much more present than I used to be. I actually had my first real orgasm with my current boyfriend earlier this year, so I've made lots of progress. I'd say how long depends on your personal story and how long you've been in therapy or healing. For me it's been about 5 years of therapy, on and off. Almost 20 years. I was sexually actively, but I wasn't comfortable with sex or bodies. Once I hit my 30s and made major changes. I had been for 3 years, therapy, and stress. Did I begin to enjoy sex and intimacy? It was a very long load, but it wasn't as torturous as it might seem. To become completely comfortable without any flashbacks took about 15 years. But don't let my timing define someone else's recovery time. Some people can be functioning normally sexually the next day, and some may never be able to experience intimacy in a healthy way again. We are all different. I started getting sexually abused at age 8. By age 10, I became hypersexual and started fantasizing about having sex with kids my age. By 13 over 14, I was already sexually active. I became comfortable with sex very early. Very easily. I would have flashbacks. I would be uncomfortable. But I just accepted it. With my boyfriend. He's the only one I felt consistently comfortable with minimal flashbacks. The first time it happened I only felt comfortable with someone about a year later, but that was more to do with the guy. The second time I managed to brush it off, but the third time only being an attempt affected me, and now I haven't been comfortable with anyone other than the previously mentioned guy. Stayed in contact as FWB, never dated, but even now I still have times where I'm uncomfortable during the event. He notices the change instantly and backs off and gives me space, time and comfort until I initiate something again. I strongly feel time isn't necessarily the only thing that will raise your comfort level, but also your partner. If you have a good sexual partner who ensures your comfort, consent and satisfaction, you will regain the comfort much quicker. I was 16 to 17 when my stepfather raped me. My best friend drove me to get a rape kit done because my mother never believed me when I brought up his toxic behavior. She always sided with him up until it was proven that he raped me. Well, duck that shit. I still don't forgive her. To this day, it still affects me and I'm 24. Sex literally repulses me to the point where I feel gross after I touch myself, and it angers me that one man had this much effect on my life. I don't think I will ever be comfortable with sex. It's a big part of why I refuse to date men, aside from trust issues and daddy issues lol. I'm still not comfortable, but I'm at the point where I can get through it. My current partner is very patient with me and lets me lead in intimate situations. I always cry after and need a hot shower. If I can't do both of those things after sex, I have a meltdown. It's horrible to feel like I'm imprisoned by my experiences. If I never had to be physically intimate with anyone again, I would be so relieved. Sexually abused by a parent until I was old enough to realize it was wrong. I became hypersexual at like 12 and that lasted into my mid-20s when a boyfriend at the time made me realize I didn't need to use sex to get attention. I now have a great sex life with my husband, but I regret those years because it's really not me. I'm still a virgin, though. I've read many books and watched many videos to understand a bit more about what I went through. I think that by becoming more self-aware, it can help you. I had to fully understand what I went through, how much it hurt me, and what I was comfortable with. I realized that I'm a demisexual, needing a deep, emotional connection to awaken my sexual side, and realized that I'll need to be completely comfortable with talking about my trauma with whichever partner I choose. And I cannot, and will not, compromise when it comes down to my body. If I don't want to do something, then I will not do it. If I do not feel comfortable, then I will not do it. If I feel like I need to comply, or I need to give in to make the person I'm interested in to be happy, then I need to detach immediately, because it's not what I truly want to do. When I say detach, I mean that I won't have sex. I'll have a conversation, and if they don't understand, then I will leave. If I feel like I'm being triggered, then I will stop. These are things that I have learned over the years. What may work for me may not work for others, but the point is to get to know yourself. Oh, and you must stick to your boundaries. Even if it's hard. I haven't had sex because I haven't found a person that truly made me feel safe enough. Well, I have, but things didn't work out for other reasons. There will be someone out there that will listen to you, treat you like a normal person, understand and respect your boundaries. You are not broken. You are not damaged. You are not to be blamed for what happened to you. Sex shouldn't be this thing that you're afraid of because of what happened to you. There will be someone who makes you feel completely safe, and when you're ready, you can show that side of yourself. But there is no rush and there shouldn't be any pressure. It is your body, so you get to choose who gets to see that side of yourself. And if anyone is making you feel bad for that, then they are not worth it. Again, it's your body, and it's your rules. I don't think I will ever be fully comfortable, but I'm starting to be okay with trying to date again. It's been 2 years. Once in a while it's good, but usually I dissociate in spite of all my coping training. It feels extremely weird and wrong to even comment here. Had to make an anonymous. I just went on life convinced it never happened, or it wasn't that bad, until I started getting into dating and realized how extremely uncomfortable I feel. I feel sexual attraction, but I can't help but feel preyed upon and in danger whenever I try to do anything remotely sexual. That's when I finally admit to myself that it did happen. Of course that didn't stop exes from coercing me into doing things. Sending me unsolicited pics. What else? Lol. The guy I'm currently seeing snapped at me a few days ago for always getting triggered by his jokes. I'm not yet comfortable, but at this point I'll just force myself to be. I don't have anyone to talk about this with because of my situation and the person that has inflicted the abuse. I can't really talk to anyone. It's still isn't 100% okay. I was assaulted when I was 15. Multiple times over the course of a few months. I went to high school with my rapist, who was one of my best friends at the time. I have times where I enjoy sex and I have times where I burst into tears throughout and have a meltdown after. But it's getting better. I was molested as a child, and when I started having sex as an adult, every man sexually abused me in some way. I can't access the memory of what happened to me as a child. I can only remember the lead up, and I know the behavioral fallout that happened afterwards. I put the pieces together. When I lost my virginity as an adult, virginity is a weird concept when you're pretty sure you were molested as a kid, but can't actually remember what happened. Like if the molestation involved rape, was that me losing my virginity? It was to my first boyfriend raping me. My latest ex was the worst, though. He's the first man I really opened up to and allowed myself to be emotionally vulnerable with, and he abused me in the worst ways possible. Rape had become so part and parcel for me. It didn't really register in my conscious mind as a violation. So he raped me a few times, with me failing to mentally process it. And even consenting sex with him was highly coercive, because the times I'd resisted he'd forced me. But then he started reproductively coercing me too. 6 months after leaving him, I can't even masturbate without crying. There's still a part of me that craves companionship and a kind touch. Like an abused dog that's still willing to trust humans, even though every single one they've encountered has hurt them. But I know I would have an emotional breakdown in my current mental state if I were to be touched intimately by a man. I bitterly laughed out loud when someone, trying to be helpful, told me the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else. I can't even touch myself. Well, for the 6 years in which I told Noon about it, I just got more and more uncomfortable with my body or being intimate, and at a certain point, didn't want anyone to touch me at all, not even friends or my mum. When I opened up in therapy, a lot changed. I worked on my fears and trauma, and slowly my perception altered. It's been 5 years after therapy, and man, I've actually found interest in people. I've been intimate with more than one person, and have had very good, loving experiences and some neutral, not great ones. But nothing scary at all. It feels great, although I can still feel that it's there in the back of my mind. I guess it'll take me more time and maybe a stable relationship to get over it completely. I'm in my 30s, and I'm working through this. My husband is very kind, patient, selfless, and always wants to please me, so that helps. Also knowing that sex is not a dirty thing, and that in God's eyes it is a beautiful and holy thing between a man and a woman. The sensations are natural and pure, not something to be afraid or ashamed of. I was 3 when the abuse started, and 12 when it ended. I had 2 incidences of sexual assault at the age of 19. I'm 36 now. The last year has been the most positive experience I've had, so 17 years. I'm still working on it. My guess is it will be a lifetime to heal from all the pain, but every layer of hurt and pain I peel away is another deeply beautiful experience. Sex and intimacy become more deep and resounding in the way I experience them each year as I move forward. Edit. Meant to mention things changed drastically for me after doing EMDR in therapy. Still working on it. Been since 2005 from a physical attack and a mentally abused 4 years in a different relationship after that. I wouldn't say I've had a healthy relationship ever. I went through therapy last year for the first time, and we were getting close to a breakthrough, but COVID happened and I'm out of work and no income. Working on it. Slowly. It's been 7 years and it still bothers me sometimes a lot more than others. Sometimes I'll cry in the shower and other times I won't think about it for months. It luckily doesn't affect my current intimate relationships much, because I view what I willingly give completely differently than the person that took what they wanted from me. Unfortunately, the effects are lasting, but I'm lucky to not be overcome with it at all times. It's different for everyone. I was assaulted as a child, molested up until age 12. It took many years of therapy and baby steps with my husband. We started dating when I was 23 years old. He was very understanding and patient with me in the beginning. It's been 6 years, and I still have moments from time to time. By moments, I mean memories that make it difficult for me. He's still very loving and patient. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.